Well, good afternoon, everyone, and those who will be eventually watching this on a video. My name is Lawrence Mello. I am the Government Documents Coordinator, and this workshop, workshop is on, as it says, knowing before you go, voting workshop. As we know, we are in an election cycle this year, so this workshop is intended to show you how you can access both free resources and resources through the library, our databases, where you can become a more informed voter. So before we jump into the resources, I wanted to present just some of our past presidents and their views on voting. You know, from John Adams, who was our second president, who saw liberty cannot be preserved without the general knowledge, knowledge being the informed voter, all the way down to John F. Kennedy, the ignorance of one voter in a democracy impairs the security of all. So it is amazing. While we may think our vote doesn't count, but our vote does truly count. Depending on, regardless of what party you vote for, on what issue you vote for, our founding fathers put forth in the Constitution and the voting processes so that we, the people, can take part in an active society. So also we have some timelines on our voting history. And the key amendments I wanted to point out is obviously the 15th Amendment, which gave African Americans the right to vote. For women weren't allowed to vote until the 19th Amendment in 1920. Though in Wyoming in 1870, women were allowed to vote only in all elections, but only within that state. The 24th Amendment eliminated poll taxes, which was part of the Jim Crow era, which you may have to vote, you had to pay taxes to vote. And then for us youngins, in the 26th Amendment, it changed the voting age from 21 to 18, which was a big cry from a lot of the men and women who served in Vietnam or were drafted to go fight in a war, but yet could not vote in the election or who they were representing. So as this slide here shows us, Uncle Sam wants us to be informed. You can be informed through reading newspapers. Newspapers are a good source of seeing what's going on. Obviously, you have to be careful what newspapers you read. There's always a bias, so keep that in mind. We have off in the top corner there, also congressional hearings, congressional records. These resources are put out by the government on both hearings, the bills, the congressional record, which is the daily summary of what goes on in Congress. So you can keep informed on what your politician that represents you, whether it be a House of Representative or your state senator. Then we have debates. Debates are very common. Obviously, the first television debate, which has changed and revolutionized how we see our presidents or presidential candidates, with the Kennedy-Nixon debate. But debates go back even for, and this image here is of Lincoln in the Lincoln debate with what his name slips my mind. Anyone in the crowd? Stephen Douglas. That's right. Stephen Douglas and thank you. And Abraham Lincoln. But again, debates are there so us as the voters can keep an eye on and see what the candidates are going to be all about. And then in the bottom corner is, as we know them today when we do research, academic journals. Academic journals are written on the myriad of topics. You can look at a topic, look at an issue, and then do the research and see what's being said by the experts in those fields. So let's begin with the library's homepage. And there's our web address right there, library.fau.edu. Once we come to the library's homepage, you can click on departments. And that will take you to our department page. And then as the arrow says, click on government information and maps. So this is the government information and maps homepage. Not only will you find information on voting information, but you'll find information as we are a federal depository library. So that means it's our job to serve the public and not only our students, but the public to provide government resources, both in print and digitally online, which our catalog is growing daily. You can go to that web address and it'll take you straight to our page. And we'll also, when you click on it from the home page, 1 minute, from here, when you see this slide, and this is a revolving slide, click on Florida voter information, we'll take you to the LibGuide, a research guide. And the research guide is the essence of what this demonstration is all about today. So I'm going to show you the resources that you can find on this research guide. So first, go back real quick. We're going to start with Florida voting information. We would click there. And that page is going to give you information. Again, in the beginning, it's going to start off about Florida, but we're going to show you if you're not from Florida and you're voting out and you're from another state as a student or faculty member, you can then get information on your state. But dealing with Florida registration gives you information what you need to know before so you can register. Know before you go, obviously, the three main counties that FAU works with or has student body and faculty with are Broward, Palm Beach, and some with Miami-Dade. So those links will take you to those counties where you would get county information with information on when they early register to vote, how to get your email, vote by, not vote by email, excuse me, vote by mail. We haven't got that far yet with technology and other information as well. You can track your ballot. So if you do decide to mail in your ballot and you want to see, did it register my vote yet? If you click there for those three counties, it will track your vote. Very useful. I've done it in the last 3 elections. So I mail mine in. I like to make sure my vote gets counted. And it will tell you when it was counted and the day and time. You have ways to vote. The 3 large ways to vote, obviously, is to vote on election day. You can vote by mail or early voting, which should be coming up shortly. And then if you're from out of state as a student, you have vote outside of Florida section, which will give you USA.gov, which will take you to what the federal page will give you information about how you can register to vote and all the different, depending on your state, the guidelines in which your state governs from. Yes.
So you're showing 3 counties there, but how would we find out, like, if we live up around HBOI area?
You would go to the Fort Pierce County. Yes. Go to there.
What HBOI is?
No, HBOI is Fort Pierce, yes.
And would that track by your vote by mail also work for that?
That would those are for those 3 counties because this is just the image. The links are down below. I'll go back and I can go back later and add Fort Pierce.
Okay, interesting.
But yes, or you can just go to the Fort Pierce County website and they have information on voting. Good question. So here's some of the free resources that you have. We have USA.gov, which and all these free resources I'm going to show you today are or tend to be unbiased, non-partisan. They want to just provide you the information so you can make this informed decision on whoever you vote for. Doesn't matter. So this one is USA.gov. It's a federal website, and as its mission says, is to make it easier for people to find and understand the government, not only their government services, but how to vote. Then you can see from voting registration, how and when and where, state, local election offices. So again, depending on your question, your needs, you can really get a lot of good information from this website. Again, this is at the federal. This is provided by the federal level, but it provides state information as well. VoteSmart.org is a website. It's a very useful website, and as you can see, their history is completely unbiased, and they don't take endorsements from any politician or political entity. There's no political advocacy or lobbying for our cause or anything. Their sole mission is to provide free, factual, unbiased information. And as you can see here, you can put in your politician's name or address, and you can get information from their bio, votes. Mind you, this is information that they've provided, or their team has provided. So depending on the candidate, you may have more information or not. Bio, votes, positioning, ratings, speeches that they may have given on a topic, and also who's funding them. Maybe that's an issue for you as a voter, and you want to make sure that your vote aligns with their cause. Yes.
Do you know on the positions where they get that information from? Is that where they send out a survey to somebody, or?
Usually what they do, they'll reach out to either the candidate directly or their team, their campaign team, to get the feedback. Now, again, mind you, depending on the candidate and their team, you may have a more robust amount of information in that section, or you may have very little. It depends on the individual. Ideally, it'd be nice if we can get all that information on every candidate, but they collect it. Yes.
Do they contain information about the judges that are running?
Judges, I don't believe so. Honestly, I've never looked for judges, but that's a good question. I can always do some research. And also, you can also work, if you have a question, you can reach out to me and you'll have my email at the end of this presentation. If you have questions, you can reach out to me and we can work on this together. Vote for the 411.org website. Again, as their mission is, originally it was put out by the League of Women Voters back in 2006. So it's a relatively new site, but they'll give you information on absentee ballot information, ballot measures or different issues or amendments that may be on your particular ballot, depending on the county, state, or federal level. Early voting options where applicable, elections, and there's a lot more. I just couldn't fit them on this slide. And you can see they have information dealing with register to vote. Check the registration, because again, sometimes we hear stories of people getting being kicked off voting polls and stuff like that. So before election day, it's always good. And the reason why I'm doing this now, early October, gives you a good 30 days, little over 30 days to really make sure you're registered to vote based on your location. And then find what's on your ballot. As we know, when we get ready to vote, some ballots can be very long, especially at the presidential election time, with state initiatives, federal initiatives, and nothing worse than going in to vote the day of if you're the type of person who likes to vote in person and trying to look over every little thing on a ballot. That's why I would recommend also using Ballotpedia. One, because what's nice is, and I've tried this, you can put in your address, it'll bring up your particular and put your email address as well as where your voting address that you registered under. You can not only view your ballot online, so every little initiative that is on your particular ballot, because one city, one county can be different from another, you can email it to yourself. So if you want to sit home and then start to really do that research, become that informed voter, you can, one issue or initiative at a time. And you can also find from this website, they'll publish different trending articles based on different topics. Florida, a hot topic in Florida right now, obviously, is two of them. Florida Amendment 3, the marijuana legislation initiative, and also voting Florida Amendment 4 right to abortion initiative, as well as others. And again, depending on your state, that will change. And then you can get also up-to-date news that's going around the country in different states. So very useful website. Again, it presents the information in an unbiased, unfeathered presentation. And then we have the FVAP.gov. This website is very useful for those who are currently serving in the military and overseas. I, as a veteran, when I did serve, I relied heavily on this website to make sure I received my voting ballot in a timely manner so I could vote overseas when I was overseas. And not only just for military, but for citizens who are working overseas. So if you have a family member or a loved one who's working overseas for a company and they want to take part of their civic duty in the vote, have them look at this website. They can make sure they get their ballot in time. And this might be the website I think that's helping the American astronauts that are up in the space station, as well as the two that were hoping to vote, but now they're stranded up there until February, I think. Again, this is useful to allow military and overseas citizens who are working so their ballot can be heard. We always hear about those votes being counted, and it takes a little time on election day. There's one of the reasons we want to make sure every vote counts.
So
Yes.
This looks like it's saying it says if your requested ballot hasn't arrived, use the federal write-in absentee ballot. So this is only on the federal level, or does this also take into account your local or your state?
I believe it's been a while since I've used it myself, so I can't say 100%. I believe it's just at the federal level. Yeah, but again, that might just be for the write-in part. Now, if you have time and then to send the full ballot, you might get the local initiatives as well. Sorry, I don't have the full answer. Then we have the League of Women Voters. Again, it's one of the first to be created. It's a non-partisan grassroots organization, which sole purpose is to inform us as voters, and you can see some of the topics that they look at, from protecting the freedom to vote, proving elections. Elections every year seem to be an issue, whether it be long lines or there's been talks about making it a national holiday so people didn't have to work on the voting day. Reduce the money in politics. We know the money, regardless of the party, is influencing what's going on in DC, which affects us down here at the lower level. And then fights, for fair and redistricting of voting, removing the gerrymandering part of voting, which has become. And what's also nice is if you want more information on your local, there's an interactive map. You put in your zip code, as you can see there's 33325. That's my zip code. It will bring up the Broward County version of Women of League Voters. So I get more information as what they're doing in Broward County, as well as if I wanted to be an active member. So again, depending on your needs, they're there for you. Again, it's about informing us as a voter. And again, like I said, nonpartisan. So now we're going to move into the next phase of this presentation, and we're going to focus on the databases. These are databases that you can find here through FAU. They will require a login. So if you're viewing this video later and you're not an FAU student, faculty, or staff member, you can always come into our library and use these databases in person, but you won't be able to access them remotely. So just keep that in mind. First one is CQ Magazine. It's a database through Sage. It's a magazine which will allow you to get information on what's going on in Capitol Hill, from the different talks, the different from researchers, reporters. So you're getting a bunch of different viewpoints, not just academic. You're getting, what questions are being asked of our representatives when they're holding, debates or speeches. You're looking at what the editors are writing about and things like that. Virtually, it's what's going on in Congress. It's more of a magazine-esque type. Now that I will say, I checked today, the database is a little lagging. It only goes up to right now. They haven't published past June of this year, so keep that in mind if you jump into this resource. But it does go. It's fully archived. It goes back to 1983. So again, depending if you're doing research, whether it be for an election or if you're looking for a topic relating to a program or class at FAU, you can get government information here. We have the CQ Researcher. This one is more in-depth compared to the magazine. You can see it looks at the hot topics of the issues of the week.
I'm sorry, this isn't the voting.
Yes, it is.
Oh, it is. Okay.
So CQ Researcher is a database that we subscribe to. It has provides there are 44 reports produced each year, and you have different topics from agriculture. You can see there's sports, there's business and economics. So again, these are informative research reports that are presented to our congressmen, so they can make hopefully educated and decisions when they're in the different hearings and committees.
So
Yes.
you said 44 reports. Are those always the same topics every year? Or
No, the topics do. They produce 44 topics reports each year on different topics. Topics can expand, they can contract depending on the topics of the day. Obviously, topics today may not have been the topics discussed 2-3 years ago, so it does rotate yet. But these are the general subject areas, or some of the subject areas, but they tend to produce up to 44 reports a year. Yes.
How would I get to the CQ Researcher from the library's homepage?
I will show you that later through our
Okay.
A to Z page, but if you come in through that research guide, that link will take you right into it.
Okay.
Good question, but I will show that later. But definitely come into the research guide on voting information. The link is there. Another one is Hein Online. This one is more of a very more technical one. This will provide you information on case law, the different committees and hearings that our congressmen sit on. And in this slide, it's hard to read. The text is really small, but some of the difference from congressional record, at different hearings, committees, and things like that. And then and laws as it relate, and then ties it into our academic journals as well. So there's secondary sources researching the primary resources so they can provide their feedback as well. It's a very good resource. Again, I will say the Hein Online does take a little bit more finessing to get that information out of. If you're really looking for the congressional hearing or the congressional records, I would definitely look towards ProCrest Congressional. It's a more user-friendly resource. It provides congressional hearings, Federal Register, which is your laws, miscellaneous publications, CRSs, which are federal reports. So you have researchers who do research on a topic. They provide that information to the senators or the congressmen. So when they go before their committee hearings, they can, again, hopefully make an informed decision. And you can access them all here, as well as different congressional hearings that are currently either have been fully enacted, being discussed on the Hill, things like that. And it will tell you where in the progress it is, which is really nice. So if you are one of those informed voters who really want to look at different congressional hearings that you may have heard about, it will tell you where in the process. So is it just been, the topic is just brought up, or is it in the House? It's been in the Senate. Are they in the middle of discussing it, or has it been signed into law? So it's really useful.
Am I correct then? So Hein Online would have this information, but they also have articles or
Yes,
commentary, whereas this one is more the facts, just the facts.
yes, exactly right. So Hein Online, the previous one we were on, this one is, will again, not only provide you the facts, but also it intertwines with over 3,200 scholarly journals. So again, you're going to get that intermixing. You can get the facts, but it's also going to give you secondary sources discussing those facts. If you just want the facts and only the facts, I would turn to my personal use and preference is turning to ProQuest Congressional, also because it's a lot user friendly. The way it presents it, it's very clean. Heinlein is a newer product, so they're still, they're progressing, they're evolving. But if I don't find it in ProQuest, I do dive into Heinlein. Yes.
And are you recording this? So I want
Yes.
to go back.
I am recording this, yes. And then once after the presentation, I'll extrapolate it from the cloud. I'll work with a colleague of mine, put it on, I believe we're putting them on YouTube. So they'll be there for prosperity. So the two main sites, as I mentioned earlier, is the government information website. And then from there, when the slide comes through and it says voting information, you can click there. Or to answer that question before, when you ask how can we access these databases to the website, the main launch page I would suggest is come here, because not only will you get the databases, you will get all those free non-partisan websites that will provide you voter information. So as we saw earlier with Uncle Sam, right, he wanted us to be an informed voter. And he showed us where we can turn to. We can look at newspapers, we can look at congressional hearings or the facts as they're discussing topics, academic journals, those secondary sources discussing those issues so we can get a more informed opinion, as well as the presidential debates. Well, now he's telling us, now that we're informed, we know where to find that information to go out and vote. Because again, that's part of our civic duty as citizens of this nation, is to vote, regardless of who you vote for, what issue you stand for. It's our civic duty. What our founding fathers had hoped for, so we become more we the people, is to be part of that process, which is voting on election day, whether it's a presidential election, a state election, or even a local election. So again, there's my name again is Lawrence Mello Jr. I'm the government documents coordinator. If you have questions about this presentation or government information in general, you can always email me at lmello@fau.edu or govinfo@fau.edu. There are my phone numbers where I can be reached at, and the links to these two main pages in which that's the presentation. So again, get back here, if I can bring it up here. There's my information, and it was all about knowing before you go. Be an informed voter. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.